Hi, welcome back to Mr. Menta's ELL Classroom. Today we're going to be continuing Chapter 2 of the Red Book, which talks a lot about count and non-count nouns. In particular, we're going to talk a lot about food. So, to complete this lesson, you will need this page, page 13 from your textbook, which you can download on the description of the YouTube video. You do not need to print this one. And page 14 from your activity book. This page you do need to print. If you don't have access to a printer, just write the answers on a separate sheet of paper. Alright, so more talk about food and the rules for count and non-count nouns. Up here it says, let's make sandwiches for lunch. Got an exclamation point, so we're excited about that apparently. Okay. So we have some examples here. He says, let's make sandwiches for lunch. And then she says, sorry, we can't. There isn't any bread. Bread, remember, is a non-count noun. We very rarely say there aren't any breads. We don't talk about breads as if we're counting one bread, two bread, three bread. We just say the bread. So there isn't any bread. Over here she's saying, let's make an apple pie for dessert. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any apples. So apples are count nouns. We can count them. 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 apples. So we say there aren't any apples, and there isn't any bread. Alright? Okay, so that's our example. Let's go over to the writing activity now, okay? So down here to our activity, page 14. Here we have pretty much the same idea, okay? I'm sorry, but... So now the people are at a restaurant, but we're still going to talk about whether there isn't any of something and there aren't any of something. Okay? So, look at the menu to see what Randy's restaurant has and doesn't have today. Alright, so here's today's menu. I'll let you read it for yourself because that's part of the challenge. And now in our example, may I have a hamburger and some French fries? She says, I'm sorry, but there aren't any French fries. So if we look at the menu, there's hamburger, but no French fries. So you got to do a little reading on this one. You got to do a little reading. Okay? Because he did have the hamburger, but not the French fries. Okay? May I please have a salad and some tea? I'm sorry, but there isn't any tea. So over here, we see, here's the salad. So they do have salad, but there isn't any tea. So you got to do two things. You got to read the menu and figure out what they don't have. And then you have to remember, am I going to say aren't any or isn't any? Two things, okay? So, do your best. Fill in the rest of the worksheet, and then come back to me, and I will talk about it with you. Alright, so now is the time to pause the video and fill in the worksheet, okay? I will wait. Have some of my water. Try to keep my voice from giving out. Okay, did you pause the video and fill in the worksheet? Alright. So, number 3. May I have chicken and some milk? I'm sorry, but there isn't any chicken. Over here we see on the menu, here's the milk, but there isn't any chicken. Not there aren't any, there isn't any chicken. Number 4. May I have ice cream and some cookies? I'm sorry, but there aren't any cookies. Because over here we see ice cream, so they do have ice cream, but they do not have cookies. So there aren't any cookies. Look at what you wrote. Make sure you wrote aren't any cookies. Okay? Be careful. Did you write isn't any cookies? Did you write isn't any ice cream? Those would not be correct. If you wrote that, you need to change it. Okay? You need to write, but there aren't any cookies. Okay? All right. Number 5. May I have cake and some soda? I'm sorry, but let's see what we have here. Okay. So we have soda, but no cake. So we'd say, I'm sorry, but there isn't any cake. Check your work. Make sure you wrote isn't any cake. Number 6. May we have 2 sandwiches, please? I'm sorry, but there aren't any sandwiches. And I know that because that's the only thing they asked for. So there aren't any sandwiches. Okay? And is that the last one? No, there's more. Oh. What is going on here? Number 7. May I have apple pie and some orange juice? I'm sorry, but let's look at the menu. There's the apple pie, but no orange juice. I'm sorry, but there isn't any orange juice. Make sure you wrote isn't, not aren't. Number 8. May I have spaghetti and some meatballs? I'm sorry, but let's check the menu. There's spaghetti, but no meatballs. I'm sorry, but there isn't any. There aren't. There aren't any meatballs. Meatballs has an S, so it's a count noun. So I'm sorry, but there aren't any meatballs. Now, if I was talking about spaghetti, I'd say isn't. But for meatballs, I say aren't. Good job. All right, did you check your work? Okay, checking your work is part of the work. Okay? Let's go back now to this page, page 13. And remember this? So now that you've had a little practice with that, we're going to make more conversations like these, okay? Okay, so for example, remember up here she said, let's make sandwiches for lunch. And he said, sorry, we can't. There isn't any bread. Okay? You are going to practice that with these. Some of them you're going to say isn't. Some of them you're going to say aren't. Okay? So for example, number 1, let's make pizza for lunch. You will write, sorry, we can't. There isn't any cheese. Okay? Because for cheese you say isn't, because cheese is non-count noun. But for some of these you'll say aren't. Okay? So, we're going to get some writing practice now in. You write a sentence, say, sorry we can't, there isn't any cheese. Then do that for this one and this one, down to number 8. Number 9, you'll make up a new one. Okay? So write those 9 answers, and then come back to me when you're done, and I will talk about them with you, okay? So pause the video again and write the answers, okay? Pause the video now. All right, did you pause the video? Good. Let's go over the answers. So number 2, let's make some fresh lemonade. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any lemons. Aren't. Okay? Let's make a salad for dinner. Sorry, we can't. There isn't any lettuce. Isn't. Number 4. Let's make an omelet for breakfast. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any eggs. Aren't. Number 5. Let's bake a cake for dessert. Sorry, we can't. There isn't any flour. Isn't. Let's make some fresh orange juice for breakfast. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any oranges. Number 7. Let's have French fries with our hamburgers. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any potatoes. Let's have meatballs with our spaghetti. Sorry, we can't. There isn't any meat. If it had said meatballs, we'd say there aren't any meatballs. But they gave us meat, so we say there isn't any meat. And number 9, you have to make up a new one. What's one we haven't used? How about... Let's say... I would say, for me, for example, let's have a smoothie for breakfast. Sorry, we can't. There aren't any bananas. Because I always put smoothies in my bananas. But you could put anything you want. Just make sure you paid attention to did you say isn't or aren't. Okay, that's the end of this video. Good work.